Hi all, please take a seat. We're now going to begin the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 Q&A session. Today, I'm pleased to introduce the following subject matter experts from our product management team. We have Vinesh Sukumar, VP of AI, Judd Heap, VP of Multimedia, Manju Varma, Senior Director of CPU, Amandeep Dilwali, Director of GPU, and Cindy Lay, the Director and Mastermind behind 8 Elite Gen 5. All right, we're excited to answer your questions about this platform. So to submit a question, you can scan the QR code on screen and then use the designated hashtag to submit on Slido. You'll also have the opportunity to upvote and downvote questions in this forum, so if you have a similar question, feel free to take advantage of that feature. With that, let's get started. The first question we have in here is, can you clarify how Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 enables personalized agentic AI experiences?
Great question. So I'm Vinesh. I'll answer that question. When you look at personalized AI experience, let's focus on a few things. Right? First thing is what happens offline. The offline element is all about able to understand the intent of the user, able to understand the emotional patterns, and the elements around what makes important for agentic experience. We're able to extract that constantly using a few embedding models that are resident within the device. And once you happen to have it, you're able to translate that into import vectors, and these vectors are stored in a database or a vector database within a very safe location within memory. It happens continuously, constantly. So as such, you create a profile about the user which is safe and secure on device. So this is foundation. The second portion of it is the base model itself. The base model can also be fine-tuned on device, and this fine-tuning happens whenever the device is plugged to the socket, so it does not take in a lot of power when you're trying to do fine-tuning on device. And once the fine-tuning is completed, and once you happen to have a database that's completed, you have two important pieces of information which are foundational for personalized agentic AI. So as such, when a user asks a certain prompt, at that point of time, you retrieve the information from the database, you augment the prompt with necessary features or metadata about the user, and then you give it to the classifier or the step one of the agentic model. And that's how you drive towards personalization. And personalization by no means is static in nature, it's dynamic, which means it's continuously learning about the user so that it's able to give a much more personalized response to the user. And when a response is provided, the user also has the opportunity to give a feedback whether the response is actually good or bad. So which means we still encourage for humans to be part of the decision-making process, and any bad feedback is taken, and using elements of reinforcement learning, we continue to make upgrades. So that's how we have made progress, and we take a lot of input from our ecosystem partners, and we continue to look at improving this.
Thank you, Vinesh. Manju, can you answer this question? Are prime cores independent in terms of frequency and voltage?
That is correct. Our prime cores are independent on voltage and frequency. Our performance cores have a different voltage and frequency.
Thank you. Vinesh, how many TOPS are in Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5?
Great question. So usually when you look at the mobile AI landscape space, we usually try to provide performances in terms of frames per second or inferences per second per watt. That is what is quite meaningful for most of our developer community and most of the applications that we look at enabling on device. And earlier, as you mentioned in the talk, over generation, we continue to improve our performance and also our power efficiency. And we are about 37% faster compared to the previous generation, and we are about 17%, close to 70% in terms of performance per watt, better than the previous generation as well. So I would encourage the ecosystem, including folks in the audience, to look at some of the benchmarks that we're going to be publishing very soon, and not really focus on the tops.
Thank you. Judd, GeForce Now adopted a chroma sampling of 444 through the HEVC codec recently. Will the new products be compatible?
Good question. No, we chose to go with a deeper chroma depth with APV. Of course, that doesn't rule out that we would add something like that in the future, but on 8 Elite Gen 5, no, the HEVC codec is still 420.
Thank you. Amandeep, could you elaborate on the differences between G memory and HPM and what sort of observations you made that motivated the creation of HPM?
Yeah, so ideally both are the same. So GMEM is our internal name, HPM is the external name. But what we have done is in the high performance memory, we have really enabled our ecosystem partners. So we have enabled through Vulkan and GLES extensions so that they can make use of this memory and use it to optimize for games, resulting in much reduced bandwidth, which translates into battery life power savings up to 10%.
Cindy, this is a very popular question. Can we expect the 8 Elite Gen 5 in the S26?
That you're going to have to wait.
Vinesh, when AI workloads run concurrently with graphics, how is the resource arbitration handled? Memory bandwidth, shared caches, VRAM?
It's a good question. I know when you look at experience enablement, either in the perception space or generative AI space, most of these workloads we push for is always concurrency, and we always push for heterogeneity. End of the day, we look at what is the KPIs we're really trying to solve for, what are some of the challenges that we have in the ecosystem, and we distribute the workload. So absolutely, it could be done. Since most of these use cases are either ahead of time, so we know what the scheduling needs to be established and go for it. There are going to be certain instances wherein just-in-time compilation is also very critical for concurrent workloads. At that point of time, we have orchestration built in as part of our Qualcomm AI stack that looks at distribution between the general purpose compute machines and our Hexagon NPU as well. So that we don't compromise on either latency or on peak performance or in terms of performance remote.
Thank you. Manju, this is a long one for you. The single-threaded performance improved a lot this generation. According to the benchmarks I ran yesterday, single-threaded performance is finally comparable to Apple's SoCs. Could you elaborate a bit more on how you have achieved this apart from the new 3nm node and higher clock speeds?
Right. So every microarchitecture aspect of the design that we look at, especially for the prime core, there are conscious choices we are making to get that usable performance out of, especially a handset form factor. And our designers have made quite a bit of changes to the branch prediction, instruction prefetcher. We've added matrix acceleration instructions. All these trade-offs are made while making sure that we are not compromising on power efficiency. And that is the result you're seeing. Again, the work we do and the microarchitecture design enhancements that we make is to enhance end user experience. We don't just focus on synthetic benchmarks. It's great, we're doing great on synthetic benchmarks, but our goal is to make sure that we add value and improve the end user experience.
Thank you. Cindy, what's the killer feature for smartphones that are powered by Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5?
Wow, that's a really hard one. There's really, I would say, not one particular feature. If you just saying camera, but in general, if you look at, we're really in the AI, agentic AI kind of era right now, and what Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 bring is, we're trying to infuse AI into all of our technology. So it's not really just one particular technology. It's the combined. It's like the CPU, the GPU, the camera, the NPU, all together. It's like a symphony that just have to work together. It's synchronized, and you can't miss a beat on that. So I'll definitely say it's AI, but that range goes into all the different experiences, premium experiences we've experienced today, and there's going to be a lot more coming.
Thank you. Vinesh, Sean asks, to this idea of the ecosystem of you, including the handset, how are you thinking about orchestration of multimodal AI workloads across multiple devices?
Oh, I wish there was a perfect answer for that, but let's start with within the device and then go from device to device. On the device perspective, we are starting to enable or transition from unimodal to multimodal models. And the reason we're trying to transition towards multimodal models is to really make sure that we reduce hallucinations and we are able to look at a better prediction outcome to what the user is asking for. So that is a big step for us. We're able to accomplish that on 8 Elite Gen 5 platforms. Most of the partners that we have worked with are able to get this fully established. And we have, I would say, pretty good, token rate and also time to first token, so which means you're not compromising on UX. At the same time, as I mentioned before, is we're also embedding this with a lot of RAG features, so which means it's just not purely multimodal inference, but also driving towards element of personalization baked in as part of this concept. Now, when you go from device to device, then the question really becomes is which one is your host, which one is a slave, or which one is a master, which one is a slave. And depending upon the context, we'll have to make that multiple switch. Our intention at this point of time, we're kind of starting with something simple that is achievable in this generation. In the previous talk, we talked about using anything LLM as a concept, wherein they're able to take information around the surroundings and then bake it in as part of your prompt and then enable inference. Now we expect as we start to get a lot more applications developed on multimodal inference that is spread across distributed inference, we'll learn a lot more and then make modifications to our stack to drive towards innovation. So I think this is step one, and we have done this quite successfully in this generation.
Thank you. Manju, what is the current ARM ISA of Orion Gen 3? It's my understanding that SVE2 and SME made it into the CPU, but not the most current SME2. Is that correct? And can you give us some insights on the development process as to why you chose which instructions?
Of course. So we have, like you mentioned, we do have SVE2, which is the next gen Neon instruction set in the CPU microarchitecture. We have added matrix acceleration instructions, SME. Now we choose the instructions that make sense for our customers, what makes sense in the ecosystem. The beauty of having our own custom CPU design team is that we can pick and choose the instructions that really add value in terms of use cases that are being utilized in mobile. And that's how we make the choices of features when it comes to instruction set architecture.
Thank you. Amandeep, this question is for you. Is there any future for a gaming smartphone? Since a gaming smartphone and a flagship phone use the same chipset and did not give a significant performance difference.
We tend to, so goal is to basically deliver the best gaming experience across the devices. I mean, people game not only on a flagship, they game on the premium phones and other phones as well. So our goal is to deliver the best gaming experience in a given thermal budget, in the given system configuration. Each phone will tend to have its own memory configs, its own thermals. But from a GPU perspective, we tend to make sure that we are building and delivering the GPU capabilities which can scale up and down in our product portfolio. So from a gaming perspective, our goal is to have a very seamless experience between the flagship and the premium tier.
Cindy, this question's for you. What's the specific 3nm process node variant in which 8 Elite Gen 5 was manufactured?
It's an N3P.
Thank you. Cindy, another question for you. Which foundry did you use 3nm? TSMC?
This particular product is TSMC, yes.
Thanks. Judd, could you expand on why we have to wait until 2026 for devices with advanced professional video when the first 8 Elite Gen 5 devices are expected to be announced this week?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'll use Cindy's answer. You have to wait and see. But I can't disclose which OEM is going to bring out APV, but it will be coming. And like I said this morning, I think the safe bet is 2026.
Vinesh, now that the 8 Elite has better AI performance on edge with Android, is Google moving any Gemini AI processes to the edge?
I'm not sure exactly got the question, but let me answer it, right? I'll take a stab at this. We have been working with the Android intelligence team and Google DeepMind team for quite a while. And we've already commercialized the Gemini Nano version 1 models. And I think as Rick made an announcement yesterday along with Cristiano, we're now in the phase of commercializing the generation 3 or the B3 of the Nano models on device. These models are quite capable and they're transitioning from being unimodal to multimodal and also supporting multiple adapters on device to really make sure that you could drive towards customization. And not to mention, there's also a lot of scope of studying it to make it a lot more reasoning based rather than being instruction based. So if we already enabled it, we're on our 3rd generation, and very soon we'll go to our 4th generation of Gemini Nano models. I don't know if I answered the question, but it's already running on device.
Judd, let me confirm again. Is Qualcomm Personal Scribe a new hardware component added to the Qualcomm Sensing Hub to enable agentic AI? I'm sorry, that's for Vinesh.
That's for Vinesh.
Yeah. Yes, so Personal Scribe is something new that we're introducing on 8 Elite Gen 5 platform. As I mentioned before, is personalization is something extremely important for Qualcomm because we truly believe that AI inferencing on edge needs to match the user's emotional intelligence, right? So every year we try to amp up the infrastructure investments so that the ecosystem around us can take advantage of it. And Personal Scribe happens to be one such element which lays the foundation for personal knowledge graphs, that can be created on device, and that acts as a foundation for, augmenting the prompt with necessary pieces of information. So yes, this is going to be the very first generation we're going to have Personal Scribe enabled.
Judd, can you go over the consumer experience with TruePic C2PA being native on Snapdragon? Does that mean phones with the new Snap chips will automatically have TruePic authentication added by default to photos taken?
Yeah, good question. So it'll be shipping in our software code base, and it will be still an OEM option to include or not include that feature. But my point this morning was that in order to simplify the delivery and the rollout to the OEMs, Qualcomm was offering this ourselves as a part of our camera code base, for capture for photo, audio, and video. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's still OEMs that can choose to enable or not enable that feature.
This is a question for anybody who would like to jump in and answer. What is your white whale? What is the feature or benchmark or goal that you see on the horizon that you haven't quite reached, and what do you need to do to reach it?
I can answer from a CPU point of view. Again, I would like to remind that we are not designing our processor for benchmarks. We would always want to optimize our processor for the optimal user experience for end consumers like you. And we are always keeping an eye on the workloads that are coming. We are trying to anticipate what workloads would come in the next year or so. And our goal is to make sure we are ready for that.
I can answer for gaming. I think gaming for sure, because gaming is a big ecosystem. People play on multiple devices. Our goal is to enable the best-in-class features, the best-in-class visuals on a small form factor. Things like ray tracing, mesh shading, UE5, which is starting to happen on the mobile side, are going to be the big drivers of the gaming experiences. So have we reached the level? I don't think we have. I think it's a continuous evolution. So, and that's what our goal is, to get and deliver the best in a small form factor. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I'll probably expand from an AI perspective, right? I think Cristiano yesterday laid out a very clear vision on how we see the edge computing evolve in the next years to come. And one of the primary foundational building blocks happens to be the concept of hybrid AI. Now, hybrid AI exists in some shape or form today, but it's quite simple in nature. In other words, some of these tasks are very predefined, meaning depending upon the complexity of the function, whether you choose to run it on the edge, or you can choose to run it in the cloud. But when you happen to have intelligent conversations with an agent on device, at some point of time, these models on device say, man, I just cannot handle the user. I'm I'm just not able to answer queries what the user is looking for. So how do I make that seamless transition towards a cloud? By making sure you still have the contextual information about the user and it's safe and secure and make the transition towards the cloud. So in other words, that router that we're actually kind of developing on the edge needs to be dynamic, it needs to be intelligent, needs to be adaptive to make that switch. And that's a very difficult problem to solve. But that's what at Qualcomm we do. We love challenges and we want to make sure kind of we work on it and then drive towards being the best, the mobile SoCs that aims towards solving these complex problems and delivering the next evolution of human UX.
I'll answer too for camera and video. The benefit of going forth is that I can think about it and then have these guys answer first. But I think white whale probably for me is working more with Vinesh and having the camera be more. We're doing great in image quality and audio quality, but I think we can do more in the camera understanding the user, what the user wants to accomplish with shooting photos or video, making choices for the user based upon his preferences, based upon how he likes to shoot, how he likes to capture. I think we're getting there, we will get there, so it's not unattainable. It's something that, camera working really closely with AI, we can certainly get there and have your camera really understand what you like and what your preferences are and basically do it for you. I think we'll be there soon.
Yeah, sometimes I keep joking with Jug is, hey, you've got too many focus points, too many auto exposure, controls, too many white balance controls. Man, I don't even know what I'm supposed to control for a given illumination condition. I just tell my agent, hey man, take the best picture and remove the wrinkles on my face and make me 20 years younger. And the camera should do it, right? That's what I want. So hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that.
And I think, since I'm the product manager for the 8 Elite Gen 5, I have to say today is the day we're going to unleash a lot of different experiences because of this, right? The quite well, I don't think we've seen it yet. Today you see the capability of Snapdragon Elite 8, Gen 5 on that. So over this next few months, you're going to see a lot of different use cases that's going to come to light, and I think it's going to really delight the users.
Thank you, that was a great question. Cindy, this question is for you. How does the power efficiency of 8 Elite Gen 5 impact battery life and real-world usage, especially for gaming and content creation?
So I think a lot of different areas in this, and this is challenging because we have this little tiny phone that's in our hand, a little box, that we have to pack so much into it on that. So it starts really with our architecture and across each one of our cores on that, whether it's CPU, GPU, camera, or also the NPU. Each one of the cores itself actually will go and try to optimize based off of their designs. For power efficiency. So that's the reason you see across the board, we talk about how much improvement we get. We always talk about how much power efficiency also is there as well, right? So that's one aspect. But as a whole, this is the whole system that we have to design to. And so that's a really challenging part. On top of each one of the cores that we have that's custom designed, specifically to make sure we get the best performance and also power efficiency as well. We also, because it's a whole system, we also have power management within the system and also thermal management. It's designed into our overall SoC and also is tuned by our software as well. So it's really a collective effort across the board.
Vinesh, this question reads, I understand the bigger picture and goals of agentic AI, but what practical changes can end users expect from 8 Elite Gen 5 devices with more personalized agentic AI?
I mean, it's a great question. I think today Shantanu and Madhubi kind of laid down the vision by saying that, if you're a content creator and you would like to really create, content based off a ton of videos, a ton of pictures that you've captured, that symbolizes you and you only, you can always ask your content creator agent on device to be able to create a personalized vision for yourself. That is a example. There are going to be elements wherein, and I'm telling you that based on my personal experience, right? My daughter goes to high school and she is, 20 miles away from our place. So we have to be in this carpool all the time, on the morning side and the evening side. And I always am either late and I forget that I'm supposed to be, running the daddy daycare for this week. So I wish, if I happen to have a productivity tool that reminds me, hey, this week is my pickup, and let's make sure that we can make adjustments to my calendar so I don't happen to have any kind of meeting schedules, or I need to leave the office, let's say 30 to 40 minutes before, looking at the GPS coordinates, and I'm in the Bay Area and traffic is a mess, right? So it kind of gives me that kind of personal snippets to kind of make sure that I'm ready and prepared for it is awesome. And those needs to be very personalized for you. It needs to understand your schedules, it needs to understand your routines, and kind of give those personal recommendations. So I think you're going to see a lot of these small productivity improvements that kind of come up with when you happen to have an agentic flow. I'm pretty sure you can kind of expand that into your style of content creation. I was mentioning before working with Judd is these days cameras getting quite complex, and you have a lot of knobs on focus, exposure, white balance. And I'm not exactly sure what controls I'm supposed to do for a portrait mode or a scene capture, especially for different lighting conditions. I can tell my agent, hey guys, this is where I want to capture my image. Once I capture my image, I need to look nice, man. I need to make sure all the wrinkles I see on my face is gone, or look very professional. And it does it automatically because it knows, how I like to present myself in image captures. And those are like, personal stories. Our expectation is as you lay this infrastructure foundation, what Qualcomm is trying to push for, we can drive the next evolution of UX, and that's what Qualcomm heavily strive for. And these are these are not easy problems to solve, but we take it as a challenge, and we'll try to make sure we get better generation over generation.
Thanks, Vinesh. Manju, 4.6 gigahertz on Boost is impressive on a cutting-edge process node like N3P. What leakage mitigation strategies have been used to achieve this?
That's a very good question. It's not easy to get to 4.6 gigahertz. It's not easy to be the world's fastest mobile processor. But like I mentioned before, these are very conscious design choices, not just design in the microarchitecture, but in the CPU architecture and in the process choices. There are implementation choices that our designers make to make sure that we are able to clock higher, to make sure all use cases get that benefit of that higher Fmax without having to compromise on power efficiency.
Thank you. Vinesh, can you help me better understand why the NPU continually gains scalar and vector accelerators but has remained on a single tensor accelerator?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I was not able to hear that properly.
Can you help me understand, can you help me better understand why the NPU continually gains scalar and vector accelerators, but has remained on a single tensor accelerator?
A good question. So I think, when you look at tensor cores has been set up to really push for, matrix-based operations. And the way we have architectured it is, one tensor core can automatically scale with multiple, matrix modules within it. And so far we have been quite successful in able to accomplish a lot of matrix-heavy operations. And obviously we're trying to understand, is there going to be certain scenarios, especially when you go towards, let's say, state space models which are quite complex in nature, or if you happen to have a hybrid approach of long context length through autoregressive models with state space models, do we have to change our tensor architectures? So there's active research happening from an architecture team, but as of now, with all the use cases that we have looked at, a single tensor core with multiple matrix modules embedded as part of it has been quite helpful. And that is pretty much the foundation for some of the peak performance, the sustained performance leadership that is showing generation over generation, and kind of beating all the premium SoCs out there in terms of AI performance.
Judd, this question is about C2PA. Do you have real OEMs that support C2PA?
Gosh, you guys always want me to answer a question about what an OEM is going to put in a feature, don't you? I would say there is interest, yes. And I think as generative AI grows, and as the need in social media grows to have photographs, be understood and be authentic, I think it will grow. But yes, there are interested OEMs. Of course, I cannot say who, but yes, there are interested OEMs who are working with us and also working on their own to implement C2PA.
Amandeep, one of your competitors just announced an SoC with dual hardware ray tracing. What are the ray tracing capabilities of 8 Elite Gen 5, and what's your stance on dual ray tracing unit and hardware?
Well, we have to see in the actual devices what the competitor has. We saw multiple announcements, but nothing officially as an OEM device. I think ray tracing in general, back to the point I was bringing up earlier, what are the things we want to solve gaming from a gaming perspective? The goal is to have the right level of ray tracing capabilities in the smartphone as part of your gaming experience. Not sure what doubling your hardware or your capabilities deliver, but our goal is to have the best hardware which delivers the ray tracing capabilities. We put this hardware back like 3 years back. We are seeing a very slow traction on an adoption on the mobile side for ray tracing games. I think there are only like 6 or 7. So ray tracing is generally heavy, very power hungry for the mobile devices, but there are certain features which we have enabled and delivered a really good experiences, like ray query is one of them. So we are continuing to look into it. We have the hardware capabilities to the level that we think are needed as a good balance of performance and power efficiency to bring the best experience on gaming to a mobile device.
Amandeep, here's another question for you. On iPhone, you can play games like Death Stranding and Assassin's Creed Mirage. Could the 8 Elite Gen 5 run AAA titles like this? And the second part of the question is, when/will we start seeing these types of games on Qualcomm-powered devices?
Not sure about the titles which were mentioned, but we have many amazing games which are AAA titles, which are very much played well on the mobile side, which are really doing good in China, worldwide, Fortnite, Genshin, amazing games which are, and there are some few other AAA titles which will be coming down the year. I cannot disclose at this point. Going back to the gaming experience, we have to basically make sure that the game engines are able to utilize the capabilities that we offer and bring out the maximum power efficiency and performance onto the table.
Thank you. Vinesh, how big of an AI model can run on a Snapdragon platform?
Interesting question. See, the thing is, the size of the memory to a large extent defines the model. So if you take a 7 billion model, by definition, from a 16-bit representation, it's about 13 gig. And if you're trying to, quantize it to 4 bits, it's about 1/4 of it, so it gets to approximately 4 gig. Given we're introducing 2 bits, it comes to around 2 gig of memory. So 7 billion translating to 2 gig in terms of the footprint. Now, when you look at the mobile space, the Android OS by definition occupies give or take between 4 to 5 gig already. And if you happen to have a premium device, it's about 12 gig of memory. 4 to 5 gig is taken by the OS, which means the remaining is about maybe 7 to 8 gig. So, if all of it is occupied by a large language model, you could, multiply that with 4 times, which means 7 billion model is equal to 2 gig of memory footprint times 4, which is like a 28, billion parameter model. That's approximately 8 gig, which means your complete, RAM is fully occupied. So if you go by that math, you could run a 28 billion parameter model. Is that the most effective use of memory? Not necessarily, right? So these days I would kind of emphasize more on small language models, SLMs. They're kind of quite good in nature. Most of the SLMs, either released by Alibaba or by Microsoft or by Google or even with Meta, are quite good in nature in terms of your MMLU scores. And at the same time, these small models are now being enabled with much longer context. We're going towards 64K, 128K context. That is about 128 characters in a word. That's almost equal to 25 pages. So, that's where innovation is happening, and we believe we're kind of going towards that path. Hopefully I can answer the question.
Amandeep, how do you see the growing popularity of x86 gaming handhelds like the Steam Deck in regards to your own mobile gaming capabilities? Is it a rivalry or something complementary, perhaps?
Well, I think it's not a rivalry if you're solving end user problems and delivering the best experience. It's just a question of different ecosystem. Our Qualcomm ecosystem, Snapdragon, it's very power efficient, giving the ability to the end user so that they can game longer and don't have to charge again. I cannot comment on the x86 side, but our goal is delivering the best gaming experience, running the games which can last longer, people can play longer, not only for mobile but also for the laptops, and making sure we deliver the best features possible and scale it across them, like mesh shading is a good example. And in addition to that, ray tracing is also another good example. So it's features like that, how do we scale between the smartphone and the PC side and deliver the best gaming experience. So I don't think I cannot comment on the x86 side of the world, but at least in a given thin form factor, we want to make sure we deliver the best gaming experience possible.
Thank you. Cindy, regarding memory, is this configuration dual channel or quad channel, LPDDR5X? And what effective memory bandwidth is available under real workloads?
It's dual channel on that. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Bandwidth.
The bandwidth of it is 5.3 gigahertz.
Vinesh, what kind of information is stored in Personal Scribe? From which functions and apps is it retrieved, and at what timing and over what time span?
Yes, I want to make sure a little bit clear, right? So Personal Scribe is all about, it's like always active, low power ASR. So which means that it's able to intelligently take snippets of the conversation and then store it securely within the device to understand more about you, to make sure it's one component towards creating a knowledge graph. But you can take a lot of modalities to actually create a knowledge graph. It can come from your browser history, which is pretty much what we call a screen understanding. It could be based off your notifications, the base of your buying patterns, the type of music you're trying to play, the locations that you've kind of gone in. So I wouldn't say that Personal Scribe is end all be all for all components of knowledge graph, but it's one entity towards creating a more holistic, secure knowledge graph for the user.
Thanks, Vinesh. Cindy, this is a bit of a long one. Designing an SoC is of course not a matter of days or months, so you must have made most design choices a long time ago. If you could have designed this chip yesterday, what parts of the SoC would you change or emphasize more to make it even more perfect fit for today's and tomorrow's phone usage?
Actually, it's not that long of an answer. Today, really, when I look across what we have accomplished for this platform, just really across the board, I have to say, I don't believe there's anything I would really change. It's incredible what you guys all here have accomplished across the board. Look at the performance, right? Look at the power efficiency. Look at how we're linking AI into all the mobile premium experiences. And look at the camera, especially the video, having more of that professional grade video, right? It's this is it. This is how good can it be?
Cindy, can you explain the target market positioning of Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5? Can we consider the latter as a mid-tier flagship now? And what kind of market does the 8 Gen 5 target?
Well, okay, so no, it's definitely not a mid-tier. When we talk about, you'll hear more about it later when we actually launch. So the sneak peek right now is really the 8 Gen 5. This is our premium 8. This is the typical, what we do every single year on that. No change from that. If you look at research in general, from 2023 to 2000, the overall market for premium tier type of phone have already increased from 15% to 25%. And then out of that 25%, over 40% is really for the ultra premium type of phone, the ones that's over $1,000-ish, right? So that tells you the market has a need for a premium phone, right? Because of that, that's the reason we're offering two. One is your flagship, your typical premium. You get all the premium experiences there. And then now we've added Elite on top of it. It's really where you don't want any compromise. You want the latest technologies, cutting edge technologies, the best of the best. That's where the Elite comes in. So it's something we added on top and not replace.
Thank you. We have just about a minute left in the session, so maybe we could go left to right, starting with Vinesh. What is your favorite part or contribution from your team to 8 Elite Gen 5?
Oh my God, there's so many. Let's start. I think, first thing is, we've been able to get double-digit performance leadership and efficiency leadership over a previous generation. Able to accomplish that in one generation is next to impossible. And I think, we at Qualcomm have done an amazing job with the engineering and architecture team, just pull out the impossible. So I think that's really a big accomplishment in the space of AI. Second thing is, I would say, is hitting the higher token rate. When you happen to have the limited bandwidth and you want to go towards higher token rates, and most of our OEM partners and ecosystem partners are extremely demanding, and they're pushing towards, hey, I need greater than 200 tokens per second. And 6 months ago when those requests kind of came in, I said, oh my God, man, I'm done. But somehow we're able to pull this off, especially for complex reasoning models, showcasing 220 tokens per second. I personally believe is the best in the industry, right? So that is a significant accomplishment. What else? Oh, yeah, I think the elements around personalization, about agentic AI and knowledge graph. Creating a knowledge graph is not easy, right? Because it's important to understand which pieces of information about the user needs to be extracted, which pieces of the information needs to be stored, and once you store it safe and secure, how do you take snippets of the information and make it a lot more meaningful from a user interaction standpoint? And that's a very difficult problem to solve, and we're able to pull that off. Last but not the least is, I still believe in the concepts of hybrid AI, and can I get towards a router that is dynamic in nature to shift between the edge and the cloud? Not there yet. We've still got a couple of months before the premium device launch, and I'm hoping, we can pull up a miracle in the next couple of weeks. But, as mentioned in Qualcomm, we love challenges, and I'm sure we'll find a way to get that done.
Did you get 4 things?
Exactly. I had more.
John, please just do one thing.
I'm going to be an underachiever and just give one. So every year, I come here, I talk about camera and all the cool things we're doing in camera. My video team doesn't get enough love, and video is one of those necessary technologies. You have to compress video, H.264, H.265, HEVC, AV1. We're implementing standards, right? But APV, we knew we needed to get more into the professional video space, and we started talking to Samsung about it. They proposed APV, and my team just nailed it. I mean, they did it, in a year. And our video team's not that big, and so the thing I'm most proud of is that we got this designed in, and it's world class. So that would be my answer.
I'm going to go last.
You're going
go
last.
first.
All right, from CPU side, I think you all know that this is our 3rd generation Orion CPU. I mean, phenomenal execution by the CPU team to get to this stage, to have the world's best and fastest mobile processor, and that can run so fast, blazingly fast, in a really small form factor. Kudos to the team.
I have a lot, but I'll only say a few in the given time. This is our 2nd generation of the slice architecture. So we introduced it with the 8750. This is the 2nd gen on 8850. Lot of work goes on in the background. The engineering teams, the hardware teams, the software teams. I mean, it's amazing the work they do. People spending effort and time to squeeze even a 0.5% of performance, like real world performance, not like labs results. So the ones you saw here, like 20-something% improvement in power efficiency, 20-something% improvement in performance, that's actual performance and power efficiency, which translates into real world usages, giving people the ability to play games longer, to be on the UI for longer. So it's just hard. I mean, in addition to that, we work with our gaming partners and other ecosystem partners to make sure that the solutions they are building are well optimized. So there's a lot of work that goes into that space as well. So it's hard to say and pick one feature versus the other. I think it's a mix of bag of multiple features to deliver the best experience.
All right. I watched them for the last few years as we worked on this project, starting from the conception of what exactly we wanted to build, see them build it, see the struggle they go through to squeeze every bit of goodness out of this particular product, on that to where we're at today. So there's not one feature. I love all my children. And it's very proud of what each team here have accomplished to build this whole entire platform together. So thank you.
Thank you to each of our speakers as well as all of our attendees who submitted questions. We are now going to switch over to the Snapdragon X2 Elite Q&A session, so please stay in this room for that session. We'll swap speakers.